Welcome to another Gran Turismo Sport tutorial. This time around we're featuring Tokyo Expressway Central Outer Loop with Toyota MR2s, and this is the current daily race. Meaning I'm gonna go ahead and do this on the day this event is actually going, because honestly I got a lap better than I think I could get again. Realistically, I think with absolute perfection I could get a 130.000, 129.999. But that's with everything absolutely perfect, and well, as of now I'm at a 130.114, which puts me first in the Americas region, given that it's region locked. I don't have that much motivation to do much better because it might take hours to do it, and it seems like it's better to just go ahead and show y'all how I did this, because I don't know for sure if I'm going to get that. So here's this. This is enough for first in America, so it's not bad. But anyway, here we go. Also, just a note that I figured out a few days ago as well, in case y'all don't know. You can look up your live stats compared to the rest of the Americas region and the world on what will be linked in the description, because the website name's kind of weird and I'll probably mispronounce it, but it's linked in the description. And that shows beyond the top 10 leaderboard, that shows everybody's ranking, and then it will show where you are compared to the region you're in, which for me is America's region in the world. That's how I know that I'm where I am from that. I'm 9th in the world as of now and 1st in the region. So anyway, here we go for the run up to the best lap. With this course in general, there's a firm boundary of what's good and what's not. I think that's why I'm best at these types of courses. My best 2 laps is probably going to end up being this, and then at BB Speedways, which don't have grass, it's purely walls. With this, well, it's simple. Just go as close to the wall as possible without hitting it, so that way you take as wide of a line as possible to carry as much speed as possible. I will go more in depth turn by turn, but that's pretty much just what you need to know for these courses. It's either you do or you don't. There's really no fine line of messing up or whatever on grass. I think that's why I'm the best with these compared to other courses other than Brands Hats. For whatever reason, I'm okay there, but these types of courses seem to be what I'm usually best at. But anyway, moving on. For this particular turn, go in, well, to your best lap. It doesn't matter how fast you really go into it, but as long as you get about 80 right on the apex and then full throttle out. I'm using automatic transmission, which puts me in 4th gear, but that seems to be a good gear. That way your car doesn't slide and you can get the full power out, so I think that is where you're supposed to go. And then pretty much if you're 80 on the apex and you don't hit the wall off, like every turn, don't hit any walls but get as close to them as possible, then you're good. Simple as that. That turn's not all that hard. There's harder turns coming up, and especially this turn. This turn and the next turn are the 2 harder ones on track. Maybe not hardest, but they're up there for hardest ones, and they're right next to each other. So this is an important bit of the track. For this turn, it's important because the next turn is full throttle. I'll get more into that. So you want to get this turn as much momentum as possible because you're full throttle for the majority of the time after this turn. In order to do this turn, like I'll get as close to the wall as possible. As for angling out, you're going to be full throttle into it. And when you are, that means you don't actually have to slow down too much. But you do have to a little bit, so it's a little bit of trail braking, not much. It's more coasting than anything. And then when you coast, get it to about 99 to 100. And then you'll be as close to that wall as possible. The momentum will naturally carry you out. But this is what makes it harder with this turn. High speed turns, this car slides. There's really no way around that. So you pretty much have to do very little, or not very little, compared to a car that's actually a lot, but relative to like a 4-wheel drive, little steering inputs to be able to get around a turn. Just practice to know the exact amount for this one. It's hard to explain until you do it, but little steering inputs, and that prevents sliding as much as possible. But that also means there's little margin for error to be able to stay at 9900 through there. So that turn is definitely practice. And even though this next turn is full throttle, it's hard because, again, the sliding. Full throttle plus MR2, which is notorious for being kind of tail happy, plus you want to do as fast as possible because, well, that's how racing works, equals possible chaos, and well, it is. Realistically, there's no way to stay on the inside for this turn and be full throttle. To each their own on how they want to do it, but how I do it is go a bit wide and stay full throttle. In general, the best racing line usually is stay on the inside, but in order to, you ain't gonna be full throttle. So I do veer out a little bit here, but I do stay full throttle. The car slides here, it does, there's just no way around it, but again, little steering inputs will get you out wide by default, but then you won't slide much. This turn though, if you do slide, that actually hurts quite a bit, because all of this section is for throttle. So it's better to go a little bit out wide there than it is to slide there. Don't worry too much about going wide, given that I do, and again, I have the time I have. Take that as you may. If you wanted to eat in front of me, maybe don't listen to this, but it seems to work better going out wide, in my opinion. But anyway, moving on. For this turn is, there's a lot of ways to do it. Actually, who was previously first in the Americas region did it to the eye test better. It's kind of hard to tell because you can't put the ghosts next to each other. But it might be worth watching the second place replay, which you can do just in the main game screen too for this particular turn. It seemed like it might have done it better. Maybe. It looked weird, but the speed looked better. Doesn't really make sense to watch it, but watch it. That's the player with the long name that I probably mispronounce as well, but it's the longest name in the top 10. I think I can pretty much guarantee that. Watch that replay for this turn. I do it kind of normal, again, just out and out. I'll try to describe how the other person did as best as possible, but somehow they were able to just fly into the turn going like, I'm going 114 here. I swear the person in second was going like 118 here. And went quite a bit out more wide than I did, but was able to get off the turn at like 110. I'm getting off at 108. So it was a much wider turn and it looked more awkward and it was actually slidey, but in the end carried more speed off. So maybe that's the way to go, but that looked more like something out of an arcade game. It was more talent than I have there. I mean, I can drift fine, I can control slides fine, but I generally don't go faster when I do. But other than that, I guess I'm faster in the rest of the turns. Again, it's kind of an eye test. There's no way to know for sure, but that's the one turn that I feel kind of iffy on. I don't think I could make it any better, but there's others out there who I think might have made it better. Anyway, moving on. Next turn, this one's actually not too hard, because even if you hit the wall a little bit here, it's such a small area in between the turns, it's not that big of a deal. Pretty much take it at about 100, your carry pretty good speed off this turn naturally. For whatever reason, the car doesn't slide as much here. I think it's just because you can take a little bit, like you're supposed to be, narrow steering movement through here and not a lot, so it just naturally feels better. Because it's a wider area, and again, if you hit that wall, no big deal. The turns before were just more narrow, so there was less. It hurt to go out wide, but here you kind of can go out wide anyway. So anyway, to the next turn. This turn is also an important one in the lap in general, because there's pretty much two areas where you can mess up here other than one. One, like every turn, you want to get as close to the wall as possible, so by default you might hit it some. Again, just practice makes perfect on that. But also, where you carry speed in this turn, you want to go about 92, 93, as you can see there. And pretty much once you're going at full throttle, but with where this car slides, it's going to slide a little bit. It's not much, it's controllable, but there is a slide there. So you're not going to be completely 100% straight going into this turn by default. And where I race in this view, I don't really see the rear of my car. I think y'all get where I'm going here. If you hear a clunk and you lose speed, but you don't actually see what happened, well, just practice there. There's not much more to say. That's just. It's not quite Cicada Chaos levels of hitting two walls, but there's quite a bit of area there where you could hit compared to a lot of other turns, so just practice there. The next two turns are actually easy. This is full throttle. And this is full throttle. This is a good place to just catch your breath for the last little section, which is kind of weird, but it's not all that hard once you understand it. For whatever reason, in this section, generally it's better to just kind of go out than in and just do it kind of normal, if that makes any sense. Just kind of in a fluid motion. Whatever in this, you kind of want to arc it. You kind of go in slowly and then you don't really get onto the apex till like 3/4 of the way through the turn. Because if you try to go in normal, if that makes any sense, it's kind of hard to explain. But just kind of, you do everything in the same way and it doesn't change. Hopefully y'all know what I mean by that. You can only go 86, 87 or else you slide. This, if you kind of arc it in and you do kind of different motions to the point of you hit the apex about 3/4 of the way through the turn, you can be about 89. I don't really know why, that's just how it is with this turn. But anyway, if you do that, you can carry about 89 through and then it's full throttle. And to carry naturally towards here, this little turn is full throttle, no big deal. For the final turn, this one's important by default because well, it's the last one. It goes to straightaway. But again, it's not that hard because it's a wider area. The wider turns, you can do the steering motion and have it go wide just because there's room to and it feels better too and you don't doubt yourself when you do it. So wide is good here, especially going on a straight. Go into the turn at the speed you are, whatever you get off that previous turn. Roll into it, pretty much just roll into it. There's very little braking. It depends on your style. If you want to brake and then not coast much, whatever, but you don't need to do much either. Once you're on the turn, you kind of just coast in no matter what. Because you don't need to brake much, you just tap the brakes pretty much at the max. But you can start coasting about 83 or so, but by the time you're at the apex, be about 81. And then just full throttle off. Again, wide is fine here. Even though in theory, in racing, you kind of want to stay on the inside there, especially going to your best lap because it's the least ground taken. This car just doesn't really respond well to that, so just make it go wide, no big deal. Just don't hit the wall and then you're good. And then, well, you really are good. That's your lap. As you can see there, that's my best. That's, the time glitch there. I'll go to this, because usually it freezes the time, but anyway, there you go. 130.114. Again, like I said, maybe I can gain a tenth or so through that one, about 110 mile an hour turn. The one that I said it might be worth watching another replay on. Is that when it may be best to slide for some reason, but other than that, this is as good as I can do on a controller automatic transmission, and it's best for first in the Americas region, so, I mean, Doodle hasn't tried it yet, IOF hasn't tried it yet, blah blah blah, but it ain't bad, and this is as good as I can do realistically, so I hope y'all enjoyed this. Hope y'all learned something from this. With these types of courses, just if you learn anything from this video is don't be hesitant. You either hit something or you don't. It's obvious when you mess up here, so it's just be as confident as you can be to make the lap. Because it's obvious mess up or not here. It's not, you go in the grass, it may or may not be a penalty, it may or may not slow you down. That's a wall. Wall is a straight up slow down, obviously. For me, at least, it imposes more confidence to be faster. It might depend on the person, but I like these types of tracks, and I hope y'all do more too from this. And as always, yeehaw.